Jack and Tina's Space Adventure. Chapter 1. "What are you up to?" asked Tina as she poked her head through her brother's bedroom door. She couldn't actually see Jack, hidden as he was amongst the huge pile of boxes, covers, clothes, toys and who knows what else he had bundled together in the middle of his room, but she could certainly hear him. "What are you up to?" she asked again, only a little louder this time, which seemed to do the trick as suddenly Jack's head popped out of a hole halfway up the structure he was building. "What's it look like I'm doing?" he replied as if the answer was perfectly obvious. I'm not sure," said Tina, casting a puzzled look over the strange structure. Jack rolled his eyes. "I'm building a spaceship, obviously." "Ooh," said Tina, suddenly more excited about the jumbled structure. But before she could say anything, Jack's head popped back inside the spaceship and out of sight. Tina remained at the door for a moment with hopeful eyes lit up, but as the sounds of banging started up again inside the spaceship, it sounded like Jack was too busy for her. A sad look fell upon her face as she began to back out of Jack's room. However, suddenly Jack's head popped out of the hole again. "Want to help me?" he asked. Tina's face broke into a large smile as she burst back into the room and headed for the spaceship. "Yes, please, but how do I get in?" she asked, looking around the ship for some kind of door. "Wait there," replied Jack as he ducked back inside the ship. Next, what appeared to be Dad's dressing gown began to move outwards, accompanied by a beeping noise that was most probably being made by Jack. A circular-shaped tunnel appeared from beneath the dressing gown just as the beeping stopped. "You're clear to enter, Astronaut Tina." "Okay, Astronaut Jack, I'm coming aboard," she replied excitedly. Chapter 2. Once inside, Tina had to admit that the spaceship looked far more impressive than it did on the outside. "What do you think?" asked Jack. "I think it looks great," answered Tina, looking around. "Thanks," replied Jack with a large grin. Jack had lined the inside of the ship with various decorations, including Christmas lights, glowing Halloween stickers, fake candles, and even a small disco light ball. Two small seats sat before a control panel made up of a laptop computer that no doubt Dad would be busy looking for right now, both Jack and Tina's personal tablets, and a toy steering wheel. "Better buckle up," said Jack as he settled into his seat. "We take off in 5. "Oh, okay. Wait for me then," said Tina as she scrambled into her seat that was positioned in front of Dad's laptop. "You'll be the navigator," instructed Jack as he sat the steering wheel down on his lap. "I'll be the captain." "Where are we going to?" asked Tina. Jack leaned over towards her and pressed a button on the laptop. Immediately the computer came to life and a view into space and the faraway moon popped up on the screen. "We're going to the moon," announced Jack. "Cool," said Tina. "When I say lift off, press that button there," said Jack. "Okay, Captain." "We're all set then. Let's begin the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift off! Way! As Tina pressed the button on the laptop, the view on the screen began to move slowly deeper into space in the direction of the moon. Jack switched on the disco ball and suddenly multicoloured lights swirled around the ship as he began to steer the shuttle up into space. A short while later, Tina announced that according to the screen they had nearly arrived at the moon. "Aye aye, navigator, prepare for landing," replied Jack as he began making spaceship noises and pretended to press buttons on the tablets. "Here we go. Keep her steady. And touchdown!" yelled Jack, but as he did, Tina was sure that she felt the spaceship bump in shape as if it really had just landed. "Whoa, that was a little weird," she thought to herself. By now, Jack was already out of his seat and busy popping his head out of the window to check their surroundings. "We're going to need our spacesuits on," he said, turning back to face his sister. "But I don't have a spacesuit," she replied glumly. "Oh, yes you do. I packed one for you just in case you joined the mission," said Jack, moving across towards a toy chest at the rear of the ship. Upon opening the chest, he then lifted out a pair of Tina's wellies, a pyjama jumpsuit, a pair of ski gloves and an old goldfish bowl. There you go. Oh, thanks, Jack, said Tina with a beaming smile. You're welcome, he replied, whilst removing more of the same items for himself. Once they both had on their wellies, jumpsuits, gloves and goldfish bowl helmets, Jack began to open the tunnel door. Here goes, he said before disappearing out the tunnel. Tina waited until he was clear of the exit before she began to crawl out of the spaceship too. It's awfully dark, she thought, and this tunnel seems to be longer than I remember. Starting to feel a little anxious, she called out to Jack. When he didn't reply, she called again. Still no reply. Then, just as she was about to start panicking, a hand appeared in front of her. It's okay, I'm here. Wait till you see this, echoed Jack's voice. Tina took Jack's hand and he helped her pull her free from the dark tunnel. Suddenly feeling the space open up, Tina raised her head and looked around. Only rather than seeing Jack's bedroom, as she expected, instead she saw a black sky and millions of bright sparkling stars. We did it, he shouted. We really made it to the moon. Tina shook her head in disbelief. Jack was telling the truth. They were indeed now actually standing on the moon. Chapter 3. But how? Tina whispered to herself as she began walking across the dusty surface of the moon. That's not all, shouted Jack excitedly. Look behind you. Tina quickly turned around, and when she did, her mouth fell open in astonishment. Standing before her was the spaceship they had travelled in. However, it no longer resembled the pile of junk thrown together. No, now it was a real fancy, shiny-looking spaceship. It was in a traditional saucer shape with a glass dome on top. Lights lined around the circular shape lit up the ship and the surrounding area. The spaceship sat on 4 large landing legs, and between them a walkway led down from the bottom of the ship to the surface of the moon. Whoa, said Tina in amazement. This is definitely not what we crawled out of. Look at this, called out Jack. Tina turned just in time to see her brother bouncing high into the air, then slowly landing safely on the moon's surface once more. Ooh, that looks like fun, said Tina. And with that, she took a couple of steps before launching herself into the air. Whee! She screamed as she went higher and higher and higher until she finally thought she was going to just keep floating off into deep space. Eventually, she slowly started to fall back down again. Upon softly landing back in the moon, she said, Phew, that was close. Maybe I shouldn't jump quite as high next time. Yeah, probably not, agreed a chuckling Jack. Come on, let's go explore. Okay then, replied Tina, and the two of them began bouncing their way across the surface of the moon. After a short while, they stumbled across a large cave. Let's take a look in here, said Jack. But Tina was unsure. Oh, I don't know, Jack. It looks really dark. There could be anything in there. Don't worry, we'll be fine. I've got my torch, said Jack, holding it aloft. All right then, but don't leave me by myself, said Tina sternly. I'd never do that, replied Jack. As he entered the cave, Jack switched on his torch and shone it around. Suddenly the cave lit up in a marvel of bright colours as the light from the torch reflected off various coloured crystals that lined the roof and the walls of the cave. That's cool, said Tina, not feeling nervous about the dark cave anymore. As they continued deeper into the cave, Jack suddenly stumbled on a rock, causing him to drop his torch, which unfortunately switched off when it crashed into the rocky floor. Suddenly, the cave was turned into complete darkness once more. Chapter 4. Jack? Tina? Jack? Tina? The siblings called out as they tried to find each other in the darkness. Are you all right? Yes, I'm fine. Are you all right? Yes, I'm fine too. Where are you? Over here. Where? Over here. Oh wait, it's okay. I've got your hand. You do? Yes. What do you mean? Hold on, I've found the torch. As Jack turned on the torch and filled the cave with light once more, he found himself facing Tina. and she did appear to be holding something. However, as she was at least 5 or 6 yards away from him, it definitely wasn't Jack's hand. What's that you're holding? Asked Jack. Tina's expression turned to one of confusion as she slowly began to look down towards the hand that she thought she was holding onto Jack's. Right there, firmly in the grass, was something long, green and slimy. Jack's torchlight began to move along the object at the same moment Tina's eyes did. It seemed to stretch and wind along the floor and walls until the light finally fell upon a spot further up the tunnel. There, a giant set of bright yellow eyes that looked about the same size as Jack and Tina together stared straight back at them. The giant eyes seemed to belong to some kind of creature that had lots of green giant tentacles wriggling out of the bottom of it. "Ah!" yelled Jack and Tina in tandem. She immediately let go of the slimy tentacle in her hand, and they both turned around and began to run for their lives out of the dark cave. "Don't stop to look around," yelled Jack. "Do you think I'm stupid?" yelled Tina as she sped past her brother. "Wait up!" he now yelled in panic upon seeing his sister charging ahead. As their spaceship came into view again, they were both relieved to see that the walkway leading into the ship was still down and open. Once they were both aboard, they looked around to try and find out how to close the door. Thankfully, a large red button on the wall had the words "Closed Door" written above it. "I'll get the doors and you get the ship ready to fly," said Tina. Jack nodded, then climbed up a small set of ladders that led to the glass-domed control room. Tina pressed the button to close the doors just as the tip of a slimy tentacle came into view. "Oh no, come on, doors! Quicker, please!" she yelled, trying to urge the doors on. The slimy tentacle now reached the ship and slithered inside. However, it was too late for the rest of the creature, and just before the door closed, the tentacle slipped back outside before it was crushed. Tina breathed a sigh of relief as she climbed the ladders now to join her brother in the control room. The ship began to rumble as the engines were sparked into life and Jack readied it for takeoff. As Tina sat down next to him and strapped herself in, a large pair of bright yellow eyes began to hover in front of the glass dome. "I'm in! Let's get out of here!" yelled Tina. With that, Jack pulled on a large lever that said "lift off" next to it, and immediately the spaceship vaulted into the air and away from the bright-eyed tentacle creature. Chapter 5. "Do you know how to fly this ship?" asked Tina, as they now seemed to be hovering in the same spot just above the moon. "I will in a minute. It's just a little different from the first one I built. But I think if I just type our home address into this computer, it should hopefully take us there." Jack finished typing their address, then paused as his finger was about to press the enter button. "Are you ready?" "Ready when you are," replied Tina. Jack pressed the enter button and the spaceship sped forward at such a pace both Jack and Tina were thrust back and became pinned into their seats. The passing stars turned into long, blurry, bright lines as they hurtled towards the ever-growing planet Earth. Upon reaching the Earth's atmosphere, the ship slowed down, but started to glow red as the temperature grew hotter and hotter. As the sweat poured down off their faces and the heat became almost unbearable, they finally broke through the atmosphere, and thankfully the ship began to cool down and return to normal. They now flew through fluffy white clouds for a while until they parted and the sky became clear and sunny. A large plane flew by with lots of passengers looking out the window at them with astonished looks on their faces. This made Tina and Jack laugh as they waved at the passengers on the passing plane. Soon they were flying not too far above the passing villages and towns. "Look, we're nearly home," said Jack, recognising their hometown below them. "Do you know how to land this ship?" asked Tina, slightly worried. I'm not sure, to be honest," replied Jack as he looked at the control panel. "I think the ship will do it by itself," he added, looking nervously at Tina. "Well, we'll soon find out. Look, there's our house up ahead," said Tina. They both watched as the house drew closer and closer until they were right above it. Then the spaceship suddenly dipped down and began flying straight towards the tiled roof of the house. With no signs of slowing down, Jack yelled out, "Prepare for crash landing! Hold on!" "What?" replied Tina. Before she could say any more, the ship smashed right into the roof with an almighty bang, before crash landing right in the middle of Jack's bedroom. The impact blew the spaceship to bits, and both Jack and Tina were thrown off in different directions. Chapter 6. "What on earth was that racket?" yelled Mum as she barged through Jack's bedroom door. Jack was lying flat out, covered by a pile of clothes. As he slowly lifted his head and pulled a pair of boxer shorts off his face, he looked around for Tina. Just then a box was thrown in the air, and out from under it emerged a bedraggled-looking Tina. "What have you two been up to? This room is a disgrace. Get it tidied up now and keep the noise down, okay?" "Yes, Mum," they both answered before she left the room and closed the door behind her. Jack and Tina both got to their feet, looked around the room and then up at the ceiling, which unbelievably was intact and looked fine. There was absolutely no sign of a spaceship having crashed through it only minutes ago. The spaceship itself had now also turned back into its original state of boxes, toys, clothing and other bits and bobs, albeit the ship was now completely scattered over the whole bedroom. Jack and Tina looked at each other with astonished looks on their faces. "Best space adventure ever," announced Jack. The end. Thanks for listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It's free to do so, and this will keep you up to date with every new James Allen story as soon as it is available. Once again, thank you for listening, and goodbye for now.